Sweet home, Santa Barbara, where the skies are so blue. Sweet home, Santa Barbara, what's worked for me can work for you.
Hi, welcome back, friend, to Sweet Home Santa Barbara. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson. I'm with my friend, realtor, and co-host,
Scott Williams. Howdy there, Jonathan.
Hi, Scott. Good to see you again. Today's subject is photography, which includes drone photography, which I'm kind of curious about because that's a new development. But the whole area of having professional photographers photograph a house is pretty new, isn't it?
Absolutely, Jonathan. Back in the day, I was the photographer, and every realtor was the photographer for probably the first 30 years of my career. And it started out, we'd take only one picture of a house. That was it. One shot of the outside. Slowly we get 2, 5, 10, 15. And now 25 to 50 photographs is just standard.
The times they are changing. And what's the result of all this? How do people use it? And is it worth the money to hire somebody who's really good?
Well, there's quite a range in photographers. It's like they're artists, and they range from $10 a photograph to $100 a photograph. And that's a pretty big range. And obviously, if you're shooting 25 or 30 photographs of a house, that means it runs from $250 to $2,500. And depends on the value of the house and what you want to show, but it can make a really big difference.
Mm-hmm. And when you suggest that people do this, I'm wondering who pays for all this?
Well, this is generally a realtor cost. Although in very fancy, expensive homes, occasionally there's a negotiation over a budget for marketing. But what I think is important for the people listening to know is that there's studies have been done by Zillow and Realtor.com and some of the big purveyors of real estate listings that you get more than twice as many people will look at a listing that has 25 or more photographs than a property that doesn't have nearly so many photos of it. So you want to have a good, robust number of photos.
Now, do you recommend specific photographers or do people look them up on Google? How's that operate?
Yeah, I've yet to have somebody recommend their own photographer to me. I know a fair smattering of the local photographers, and young people oftentimes get into the photography business and, they find it adventurous, and some of them are really good. I do keep my eye out for someone who really knows what they're doing, though.
Uh-huh. And what else are some of the details of what to look for in a photographer, or how to use this information?
Well, I think we've gone right straight into the professional photographers. Let's pause for just a moment and say, you still see real estate agents shoot with their own iPhone the house, and you can really tell the difference. I find this most commonly someone who's not full-time in the real estate business, or maybe a property manager, somebody new or sort of retired out of the business. They'll just snap a few photographs and woohoo, you can tell the difference, and so can the public.
Yeah. And any other useful tips as to what to do when the photographer comes over? Do you stage your house in any particular way? Are there any subtleties that the average person might miss?
The answer to that is yes. I always want to be at the property when the photographer is working. There are just little subtleties of the light and the way, let's shoot the front door, inside, outside. Oftentimes we'll take a view shot of the house through sliding glass doors. We'll set up on a tripod and we'll shoot that shot. And then we'll open the doors and shoot that shot. And sometimes we'll come back, for the morning or for the evening, and we'll set up the same tripod at the same place and shoot that with morning light, with the sun coming up or sun setting, so that we can kind of take these people through the romance of the home, how beautiful it is in the morning and the evening and the twilight and with the windows open. You have to think yourself through the process to do that.
Very interesting. And how do you use these photos? Where do they go?
Well, all of the websites, the multiple listing service is the starting place. So when people first encounter the property in the local, my websites or other local websites, or even out there on Realtor.com, Zillow, and all the big national ones, they're all going to use the same photographs from the multiple listing service. So I'm want to be entirely in charge of what the public sees. I think that's really important.
Uh-huh. Before we go into the whole area of drones, is there anything else about house photography that people should know?
Well, I think that we find that not all realtors are willing to spend the money or the extra money. And I think as we talk about some of these more expensive add-ons that make for even better marketing, I think we'll discover that a homeowner needs to be interested in what their realtor is going to do, how much money they're willing to spend. And there's a direct relationship between the eyeballs on the page in the marketing and how extensive the marketing is. That's intuitive, but it's absolutely true.
Uh-huh. So I know that you pay for this, and do some realtors, they just try and get away cheaply, or what's the difference between a really good realtor and a not so good realtor?
Well, let's move it on into the past the photography. Well, first of all, you wouldn't want to hire an agent who isn't going to hire a professional photographer. Now, let's move on to the next levels. The next levels are the drone shots, uh-huh, and the floor plans. These are sort of add-ons that come as part of their services. Mm-hmm. So we know right now in the United States that roughly 50% of realtors think that drone shots are great. And there's about another 30% of realtors think that in the near future, they'll get interested in drone shots. And about 20% of realtors have no idea what drone shots are and don't have any interest in them. So it's penetrated to the halfway point in the industry. And that's worth noticing. But it is you want to be sure that your realtor is in that group that says drone shots are great. They're willing to spend for it.
Yeah, probably 100% of home sellers benefit from them. So you want a realtor that understands that.
Yeah. In Santa Barbara, you want the drone to be 50, 60 feet up in the air, showing you where the water is, the Pacific Ocean, the downtown, all those other little landmarks around here. You want that as part of your marketing. Somebody might be looking at this house from Peoria, Illinois, and they need to know that this house is so many blocks from the ocean. And the more you show them that, the more they're like, oh, Marge, that's great. Let's go see that house.
Yeah.
And that person in Peoria can just pick up their iPhone or their Android phone and call me up and say, would you walk me through? They don't even have to come to Santa Barbara, and they would still be a legitimate showing of that house. We need to catch that kind of person.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So let's go a little bit into the drone situation. You talked a little bit about how common they are and that not all real estate agents are using it. What do you look for? First of all, are you using the same photographer for drones, or are they two different things?
It started out as two different things, but now a good photographer realizes that this has to be part of what he's offering you. And the drone is the gateway to two different technologies. First of course, those nice photographs that we put in the multiple listing service, but it's also shooting video. And the video is really essential to really telling the story of a home. I'm going to tell you a quick story about that. Just a moment ago, I talked about opening up the doors and shooting a shot through there. Well, I've been in houses where we open up those doors and we take a drone and set it inside the house, pull it up in the living room, shoot it out those doors, and then up over the house. So that's we can shoot that even in reverse or in forward. It's either this dramatic moving away from the house, or it's even more dramatic coming down out of the sky, coming down into the backyard, and then going into the house, all in one video shot.
We're talking Hollywood production there.
Hollywood production. So just flying the drone in circles around the house a few times, going over the neighborhood, doing a few things like this, coming in and out of the windows or the front door, you can get a minute of video that is pretty spectacular. A decade or two ago, it would have cost you tens of thousands of dollars. You would have needed a helicopter. You couldn't even do some of this stuff. And here you can do it for, well, it's hundreds of dollars. Let's put it that way, $1,000 maybe. And just blow people's minds with this house, make it sing and dance and really perform.
So is that part of your service in a traditional way or is that standard now, or is that something extra?
Oh, it may be becoming standard, but I'm a little bit ahead of the curve on that. And then I think this is great because, or I heard this week that about 80% of searches online these days end up in a video somewhere.
Uh-huh. People like video.
People like video.
Yeah, yeah. Any last words about photography, drones, or anything that we didn't cover?
Well, let's see. I pay for this. I think this is really essential. I think you should have a realtor who does this for you and knows what they're doing.
Always nice to have experience and somebody who knows what they're doing, especially when dealing with big transactions like selling a house. Well, thank you, Scott. Always useful information. And thank you, listeners. Please come back for our next episode of Sweet Home Santa Barbara.
Thank you all. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app. If you know someone preparing to sell their home, please tell them about the podcast. Visit scottwilliams.com to contact me and download the 2 free e-booklets, Is My House Saleable Now? And How Not to Buy a Money Pit. Thank you for listening.